There's a moment in every soul's journey when the comfortable becomes uncomfortable, when the familiar begins to feel foreign, when everything you once thought you wanted suddenly feels like clothes that no longer fit. This is not a crisis. This is preparation. This is heaven's way of preparing you for something so magnificent that your current life, as beautiful as it may be, simply cannot contain it. I want you to imagine with me a master eagle watching over her nest. For months, she has made that nest comfortable, lined with soft feathers and down, a place of safety and warmth for her eaglets. But then comes a day when something shifts in her ancient wisdom. She begins removing the comfortable padding, making the nest deliberately uncomfortable, even placing thorns where there once was softness. To an outside observer, it might seem cruel, but the eagle knows what we often forget: comfort is the enemy of growth. And sometimes love looks like making things uncomfortable enough that we finally spread our wings and soar. This divine restlessness, this holy discomfort you may be feeling right now, is not punishment, it's preparation. It's God's way of saying, my child, you've outgrown this nest. It's time to fly higher than you've ever imagined possible. Let me share with you the story of Catherine, a woman who spent 15 years in what everyone considered the perfect job. She had security, respect, a corner office with a view, and a salary that allowed her to live comfortably. But something began stirring within her soul, a restlessness that felt like a caged bird beating its wings against golden bars. She would sit in important meetings and feel her spirit screaming silently, "This isn't why I was created." She'd drive home each evening with a heaviness in her chest that no amount of success could lift. For months, Catherine thought something was wrong with her. She had everything she thought she wanted. So why did she feel so empty? Why did her achievements feel hollow? Why did the praise of her colleagues ring in her ears like echoes in an empty canyon? It wasn't until she understood that this restlessness was actually God's gentle hand on her shoulder, whispering, "I have something greater for you," that everything began to make sense. That holy unrest in your spirit, that feeling that you're meant for something more. This isn't discontent, it's divine direction. The steps of the righteous are ordered by the Lord, and sometimes those steps lead us through seasons of comfortable discomfort, where we know we're being prepared for something we cannot yet see, but can sense in the depths of our being. If you feel uneasy about your current circumstances, if there's a stirring in your soul that won't be quieted by worldly success, you might be on the verge of a spiritual upgrade that will transform not just your life, but the lives of everyone you're meant to touch. But divine preparation doesn't always announce itself through inner restlessness. Sometimes it comes disguised as disappointment, as doors slamming shut just when we thought we were about to walk through them into our dreams. These closed doors often feel like rejection, like evidence that God has forgotten us, or that our prayers have gone unheard. But what if I told you that sometimes God closes one door so dramatically that you'll finally notice the one He left wide open, the one that leads to a destiny far greater than anything you could have planned for yourself? Consider the story of Marcus, a man who had his heart set on a particular business venture that seemed perfect in every way. He had the plan, the passion, and what he thought was divine confirmation. But door after door closed. Investor after investor said no. Partner after partner backed out. For months, Marcus felt like he was pushing against a wall that wouldn't budge, wondering if God had abandoned him in his time of greatest need. But then, in the midst of his disappointment, a phone call came that would change everything. A former colleague reached out with an opportunity Marcus had never considered, leading a nonprofit organization that helped formerly incarcerated individuals start their own businesses. It wasn't what Marcus had planned, but as he listened to the stories of transformation, as he saw lives being rebuilt from the ground up, he realized that his closed doors hadn't been rejections. They had been divine redirections toward a calling that would use his business acumen in ways that truly mattered eternally. Sometimes the very thing that feels like failure is actually God's way of protecting you from a path that would have led you away from your true purpose. All things work together for good for those who love God and are called according to his purpose. Even the closed doors, even the disappointments, even the times when it seems like heaven itself has gone silent. What doors have shut recently in your life? What opportunities have slipped through your fingers despite your best efforts? Could it be that these aren't signs of divine abandonment, but rather evidence of divine protection, steering you away from good towards something extraordinary? Yet sometimes divine preparation doesn't look like closed doors, but like unexpected delays, like heaven pressing pause on your life just when you thought the action was about to begin. These delays can feel excruciating, like being ready for a performance only to be told the curtain won't rise for another hour, another day, another season. But consider this beautiful truth: a cake removed from the oven too soon collapses into a mess, but one left to bake until the timer sounds emerges perfect and ready to nourish. I think of Sarah, who had been praying for a child for 7 years. Every month brought fresh disappointment. Every delay felt like another door closing on her dreams. She watched friends and family members conceive easily, while her arms remained empty and her prayers seemed to echo in silence. But during those years of waiting, something profound was happening beneath the surface. Sarah was developing a compassion for other women facing infertility, an understanding of loss that would later become her greatest gift to the world. When Sarah finally did conceive and give birth to her daughter, she thought that was the end of her story. But it was actually the beginning. Her years of struggle had prepared her to start a ministry that has now helped thousands of couples navigate the journey of infertility with hope and dignity. The delay she had cursed became the very thing that qualified her to bring healing to others walking the same difficult path. At the right time, the Lord will make it happen, not according to our timeline, but according to his perfect schedule that takes into account not just what we want, but who we need to become to handle what he wants to give us. Delays are not denials. They are divine recalibrations, preparing us to receive blessings we couldn't have handled in our former state of being. But perhaps the most mysterious way God prepares us is through what I can only call angelic coincidences. Those moments when life becomes like a divine treasure hunt, with clues left along our path by a loving Father who wants us to find our way to destiny. These are the times when you see the same number sequence everywhere you look, when you encounter the same word or phrase from multiple unrelated sources, when people you've never met before speak words directly into the question you've been carrying in your heart. Maria experienced this in the most beautiful way. She had been contemplating a career change for months, but was paralyzed by fear and uncertainty. Then, in the span of 1 week, she encountered the word courage 9 different times in 9 different contexts. She heard it in a song on the radio, saw it on a billboard, overheard a stranger use it in conversation at a coffee shop. By the 9th occurrence, Maria realized this wasn't coincidence. This was heaven's way of giving her the exact word she needed to take the next step toward her calling as a counselor for abuse survivors. He will command his angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways. And sometimes those angels deliver messages through the most ordinary circumstances, transforming the mundane into the miraculous for those who have eyes to see and ears to hear. Heaven is constantly speaking to us through the language of synchronicity, through divine appointments disguised as chance encounters, through patterns that would be impossible to orchestrate through human effort alone. Heaven is speaking to you right now through the circumstances of your life, through the people you meet, through the opportunities that keep appearing despite your doubts. Are you listening? Are you paying attention to the treasure map of clues being laid out before you? Yet sometimes the most intense sign that God is preparing you for something significant is the sudden increase in spiritual opposition, the feeling that you're engaged in a battle you didn't sign up for. This can be the most discouraging sign of all, because it feels like evidence that you're on the wrong path, when actually it's proof that you're on exactly the right one. Think of it this way: storms are strongest right before the sun breaks through the clouds. The darkest hour truly is just before dawn. When the enemy of your soul sees that you're about to step into your destiny, about to discover the power and purpose you carry, he will throw everything he has at you to keep you from taking that next step. Consider David's experience. Just as he was about to launch the nonprofit organization he'd been dreaming about for years, everything seemed to fall apart at once. His main financial backer withdrew support, key team members got cold feet, and David himself was hit with a wave of fear and self-doubt so intense it nearly paralyzed him. He began to wonder if he had misheard God, if this calling was just wishful thinking disguised as divine inspiration. But David's mentor, a wise woman who had walked with God for many decades, told him something that changed his perspective entirely. David, the intensity of the battle you're facing is actually proof that your breakthrough is near. The enemy doesn't waste time attacking people who aren't about to make a significant impact for the kingdom. The fact that you're experiencing this level of resistance means you're about to step into something that will shake hell and impact heaven. We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against spiritual forces that understand the significance of what God is preparing you for, even when you don't fully grasp it yourself. The warfare you're experiencing isn't evidence that you're losing. It's evidence that you're winning, that you're so close to breakthrough that the enemy is desperate to stop you. The intensity of the battle is proof that the breakthrough is near. Don't retreat when the pressure increases. Press forward with the knowledge that your greatest victory is often found on the other side of your greatest test. But perhaps the most beautiful sign that God is preparing you for something extraordinary is the sudden clarity that comes like sunrise after the longest night, that moment when confusion lifts and you suddenly just know what you need to do next. It's like clouds parting to reveal a mountaintop that was always there, but hidden from view. This divine clarity often comes not through dramatic revelation, but through quiet knowing, an inner witness that rises from the depths of your spirit and speaks with authority you cannot question. I remember Rebecca's story so vividly. She had been struggling for months with a major life decision, praying for guidance, seeking counsel from friends and mentors, making pro and con lists that never seemed to provide the clarity she needed. Then one morning, as she was having her quiet time with God, it was as if a switch flipped in her spirit. She didn't hear an audible voice. She didn't see a vision, but she knew, with a knowing that went deeper than logic, exactly what she needed to do. The path forward became as clear as if someone had turned on a floodlight in a dark room. If any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask of God, who gives generously to all without reproach, and it will be given to him. This wisdom doesn't always come through external signs or supernatural manifestations. Often it rises from within, from the still small voice that speaks directly to your spirit, bypassing the noise and confusion of your mind to deliver truth directly to your heart. Trust that inner knowing when it comes. Trust the clarity that emerges from your time in God's presence. This is not wishful thinking. This is divine wisdom, heaven's GPS system guiding you toward your destiny. Another unmistakable sign that God is orchestrating something significant in your life is the shift in relationships, the way new people begin to enter your orbit while others naturally drift away. When a tree grows, new branches form, and some old leaves fall away, making room for fresh growth and new seasons of fruitfulness. This relational shift can be both exciting and painful, as you watch some connections deepen while others fade, but it's all part of divine orchestration. Consider how God brought Jonathan into David's life just when he needed a friend who understood the calling on his life, or how Ruth entered Naomi's story at exactly the moment when both women needed each other to fulfill their destinies. Divine connections are rarely accidental. They are strategic placements by a God who knows exactly who you need in each season of your journey. Thomas experienced this in a profound way when he decided to pursue his calling as a teacher in underserved communities. As soon as he made that decision, it was as if a door opened in the spiritual realm. He began meeting other educators who shared his passion, connecting with nonprofit leaders who could provide resources, encountering former students who had been transformed by teachers who believed in them. These weren't networking opportunities he had arranged. They were divine appointments orchestrated by heaven. At the same time, some relationships that had been comfortable began to feel strained. Friends who had supported him when his dreams were abstract became critical when his calling became concrete. Some family members who had celebrated his previous successes seemed threatened by this new direction. But Thomas realized that as iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. And sometimes that sharpening process requires new tools and new relationships to help you become who you're meant to be. Embrace the divine connections that are entering your life, even if they come in unexpected packages. Release the relationships that are no longer serving your growth or theirs. This isn't about judgment or superiority. It's about recognizing that different seasons require different companions, and God is bringing you exactly who you need for the journey ahead. One of the most tender signs that God is preparing your heart for something greater is the heightened sensitivity you begin to experience. The way your spirit becomes more finely tuned to the needs and hurts of others. The way your heart breaks more easily over injustice. The way beauty moves you to tears and stories of redemption fill you with hope that seems disproportionate to your circumstances. When you tune a musical instrument, the strings become more sensitive to vibration, capable of producing more beautiful music, but also more vulnerable to being knocked out of tune. In the same way, when God is preparing you for a greater calling, He often begins by making your heart more sensitive to the things that matter to Him. Lisa discovered this during a season when she found herself crying at the most unexpected moments. She would see a homeless person on the street and be moved to tears. She would hear a story of someone overcoming addiction and find herself sobbing with joy for a complete stranger. She would watch the news and feel physically sick over injustices happening thousands of miles away. For a while, Lisa thought something was wrong with her. This level of emotional intensity was new and sometimes overwhelming. But her pastor helped her understand that God was giving her a new heart and putting a new spirit within her, one that was more aligned with heaven's perspective on human need and suffering. This heightened sensitivity wasn't a burden. It was preparation for the ministry God was calling her to among women coming out of trafficking. Her tender heart would become her greatest asset in reaching souls that had been hardened by unimaginable trauma. This sensitivity is God softening you for a bigger mission, preparing you to carry His heart for the people and causes you're meant to serve. Don't apologize for feeling deeply. Celebrate it as evidence that you're being prepared to love like heaven loves. But sometimes the most dramatic sign that God is preparing you for breakthrough is the sudden appearance of new opportunities, doors opening where there were only walls before, chances appearing that seem almost too good to be true. When winter ends, flowers bloom where there was only frost, bringing color and life to landscapes that seemed barren and hopeless just days before. Michael experienced this phenomenon in a way that still takes his breath away when he tells the story. He had been unemployed for 8 months, sending out resume after resume to silence and rejection. His savings were depleted, his confidence was shattered, and he was beginning to wonder if he would ever work again. Then, in the span of 2 weeks, he received 3 job offers, was invited to interview for a position he hadn't even applied for, and was approached by a former colleague about starting a consulting business together. The timing was so dramatic, the shift so sudden, that Michael knew this wasn't just the natural ebb and flow of economic opportunity. This was heaven opening doors that no one could shut, creating opportunities that bore the fingerprints of divine intervention. Behold, I have set before you an open door that no one can shut. This is God's promise to those who have been faithful in the season of preparations, who have used their time in the wilderness to grow in character and deepen in faith. These opportunities aren't rewards for perfect behavior, but gifts of grace for those who have learned to trust God's timing, even when they couldn't see the path forward. Embrace these opportunities with gratitude and boldness. Step through the doors God is opening, even if you don't feel completely ready. His strength is made perfect in your weakness, and He will equip you for everything He's calling you to do. Perhaps the most peaceful and reassuring sign that you are moving in alignment with God's will is the unexplainable peace that settles over your spirit, even in the midst of circumstances that would normally leave you anxious and afraid. Like calm water after a storm. This peace doesn't depend on external circumstances, but flows from the deep well of God's presence in your life. This peace that surpasses all understanding stands guard over your heart and mind, protecting you from the fear and doubt that would otherwise paralyze you. It's the kind of peace that allows you to sleep soundly the night before a major life change, to speak with confidence about dreams that exist only in your heart, to take steps forward even when you can't see the whole staircase. Patricia experienced this supernatural peace when she made the decision to leave her stable teaching position to pursue her calling as a missionary. By every logical measure, her decision made no sense. She was giving up security, health benefits, and a pension to move to a country where she didn't speak the language to work with an organization that could only provide basic living expenses. Her family thought she had lost her mind, her friends questioned her judgment, and her own mind presented her with countless reasons why this was a mistake. But in the center of all that external chaos and internal questioning was a peace so profound and unshakable that Patricia knew she was walking in divine will. This wasn't the peace of having all the answers. It was the peace of knowing that the one who holds the future was holding her hand and leading her into it step by step. This divine peace is heaven's seal of approval on your decisions, God's way of confirming that you're moving in the right direction, even when the path ahead is unclear. Don't miss this sign, and don't dismiss it as wishful thinking or emotional manipulation. When God gives you peace about a decision that makes no sense to anyone else, move forward with confidence, knowing that you're being led by someone who sees the end from the beginning. As I reflect on these 10 signs, I want you to understand something profound. You are not here by accident. The circumstances you've been walking through, the preparation you've been experiencing, the signs you've been seeing, none of this is random. Heaven has been aligning you for something extraordinary, something that will not only transform your own life, but will create ripples of impact that extend far beyond anything you can currently imagine. Every eagle that has ever soared had to first experience the discomfort of an inadequate nest. Every flower that has ever bloomed had to first endure the darkness of winter soil. Every breakthrough that has ever occurred had to first push through the resistance of the status quo. You are being prepared for flight, for blooming, for breakthroughs. The question is not whether God has something significant in store for you. He does. The question is whether you will recognize the signs of preparation and respond with faith, courage, and expectant hope. Your moment is coming. Your season is approaching. Your time is now. Don't miss the signs. Don't dismiss the preparation. Don't resist the process. Embrace it all as evidence that heaven itself is orchestrating the circumstances of your life to position you for impact that will echo through eternity. The God who began a good work in you will be faithful to complete it. Trust the process. Trust the timing. Trust the one who holds your future in his hands and is preparing you for something more beautiful than anything you have dared to dream.